Guys, welcome to the Lore Reloaded channel, a analyzation of Trek, if you will. I am your gracious host, Lore Reloaded. If you've watched this and you are a regular, you know what's about to happen. I'm going to let people start filtering in, and while I do that, I'm going to remind you to check me out at twitter.com/Lore Reloaded, or if you want to support the channel, of course, patreon.com/Lore Reloaded. Definitely stay tuned to find out how you could win an Eagle Moss collectible, and I got some fun stuff coming up with Star Trek Attack Wings and a couple other things down the pike. But while we wait in anticipation of that, let's see who's here. We got Captain Jesse 1. What is going on, Lore Reloaded? Right Gamers finally got here. They finally alerted the right gamers. That is how this is supposed to go. Mosser 1989, The Gamer's Edge, Daniel Schott, Darren Wagner. You are lit differently tonight. I am. I was noticing where it was coming from down. I didn't like that, so I figured I would do it a separate and different way today. We got Drew Meltzer. Going to give it a couple more seconds and then go from there. Was Captain Catherine Janeway part of Section 31? No, Section 31 would have never allowed someone so evil to be there. Old Firemaster Life is here, but he can't stick around. Well, thanks for coming. All right, so let's just jump into it. Hold on really quick, my good brothers. Let me bring up. All right, so we're going to be talking about Star Trek Discovery. The confirmation of Section 31 for a little bit, then we're going to move into the Borg. I actually, if you haven't, definitely check out my community tab. Make sure you get alerts for there, because you get to vote on what happens on this channel. I did a vote if I should do this or not, and after thinking about it, it was almost evenly matched, so I decided to go ahead and at least discuss it. I'll be honest, when people started pinging me about this, and I almost got pinged immediately, I was less than thrilled. I honestly, I have such a negative opinion of Discovery that I wasn't excited or concerned about it, because honestly, I figure they're going to find a way to either make it a lie, or again, it's a deleted scene, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Some of other Trek channels, Trek Core did it, said it was a bonus scene, or was a secret scene. No, it was said by the people there it was deleted, which means it may or may not be canon. There are a lot of deleted scenes that would change movies in certain ways that aren't considered to be a part of the movie. They aren't canon. I'm also going to be doing still images here. CBS has hit me even when I use still images. So I'm not going to be playing it. I'm going to walk you guys through it. If you've seen it, we can discuss it. But effectively, you have not Captain Giorgio. I'm sorry, the evil Empress Giorgio, who is running basically like a brothel or a bodega or I don't know, a Starbucks, something like that on Kronos, right? And you have her approached by what looks like a Trill. She rightly calls him out and says, "Hey, you're not a Trill. You don't act like a Trill. You're not talking like a Trill. What do you want?" Now, I'll grant this. That was a cool line. I like that she was able to see. It falls within the character of Georgiou that she kills and eats so many aliens that she can tell an alien when she sees one, right? But here's my question. What the hell makes this guy look different with or without his spots? He's supposed to be hiding, and that's why he has these Trill spots? That makes absolutely no sense. Why the hell? It's like it's Superman hiding. Superman glasses level of attempting to hide yourself. The dude could be identified with or without the spots. I mean, maybe they could say, "Oh, well, in passing, I saw a Trill." But that is just ridiculous. At John Riker, Lore Reloaded, you're going to see. That's right, just like I was going to see how this was going to be prime timeline, just like I was going to see how this was going to be consistent in continuity, just like I was going to see how the Klingons were going to look like Klingons. It's funny how I'm always going to see, and yet I never do. Yeah. At Jay Weig says, at Lore Reloaded, so Star Trek Discovery Season 2 will have guys with black badges in the background every now and then. Maybe, maybe not. This is a deleted scene. We don't even know if this is canon. All right. So let's continue on. So she calls him out. Obviously, his tattoos there are somehow magically hide him, just like the glasses, which always magically work, right? And he basically approaches her and he shows her, he says, you know, she calls him out, says he's the Federation. I like the interaction to a degree. He's like, no, I'm not the Federation. We're more resourceful. He gives the standard Section 31 pitch. I'm looking for a better galaxy, but I know that you can't, be this good guy. You can't be the top echelons and keep them safe. Basically, recruits her, says, welcome to Section 31, and shows him the black badges. Now, what's funny to me is that I had so many people trying to say, well, that was Starfleet security, and that's why no one recognized the black badges. That was just because they were just supposed to be there. It doesn't mean anything. It's funny how apologists will write off something and say, oh, it's this, that, or the other. And then when it's shown to be what people thought, or when it's shown to be something else, they're like, oh, look, see, it all fits in. You just have to have patience. When they were trying to write it off beforehand. You can never win generally with believers. So I do like the interactions between the two. The scene isn't that horrific. I don't think it makes necessarily a lot of sense. It is still a huge gaping plot hole to the black badges we see at the beginning. This opens up a couple of things, but before we get into that specifically, before we get into the badges and then what's on the Discovery, there was one thing I'll say. A lot of people have an issue with Section 31 recruiting Georgiou. I actually don't. I think that's smart. I think it's something that they would do. And I think it's a very wise thing to do if you're Section 31. For a couple of reasons. I do believe that you should keep your enemies close. And if they're not going to do anything, if they're not going to remove her, then having her as an ally or on the payroll is definitively something I would suggest doing. She absolutely hates aliens. She knows how to kill them, and she knows a lot of their weaknesses. Even though it's the mirror universe, a lot of that does transfer over. So I think it would be wise to use her for her knowledge. Now, obviously, she's going to try to betray them, or at least generally she would. It won't make a lot of sense if she doesn't try to betray Section 31, but I think that they should be aware of that and be watching her. So, for those who are saying that Section 31 would never approach Georgiou, I don't think that's. I disagree with them. I don't necessarily. I think they would. I think that they would do her. Daniel Bertazon, Lore, this is a great scene. I bet they will insert the scene back in for season 2. What do you think? I think maybe they'll do it. Either that, or they'll just have her working for Section 31. They gave this out, so no reason. Even if they didn't include it, they could have her working for Section 31. People are going to think that anyway. They didn't exactly go out of their way to say it's not canon. Of course, they didn't go out of their way to say it is canon. So, just par for the course for them, right? So let's talk about Discovery. And you can tell that this is a mishmash of things that's going on, and why I think this is probably a negative thing. If you look at the black badges, they're only mentioned like once, maybe twice, and that's early. It would have been interesting if we could have found out what they were doing there and why Section 31 was on that ship. It is obvious that they have black badges. It is so obvious that criminals noticed it. So you're telling me that the regular crew never asked any questions? So it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to be there and then never address it. I think that if they'd had Lorca working for Section 31, or maybe instead of having two officers blatantly there with black badges, maybe, just maybe, have done it a little more subtle, where you see someone who has a black badge or something of that nature. Honestly, this would work a lot better if you'd had Lorca working for Section 31. They had hired Lorca. Lorca would have been on the ship. You would have gotten teases here and there. And then maybe in this scene right here, somehow point out that Lorca was a part of it. He said, hey, I don't know how I would have written the script, but something to the effect of, Lorca, when he's walking away, Lorca didn't work out. Hopefully you'll do better. Welcome to Section 31. Then it all ties together. There are some good implications here, assuming that this is canon. Again, we don't know if it's good canon. But assuming this is canon, Section 31 has a presence on Discovery, which is going to work towards Georgiou's advantage. Section 31 even is apparently there without even being questioned, which that's crazy to me. Let me see if they'll give us a good shot of... Yeah, you can't really see it that well here. I wish you could. You guys can go take a look at it. Of course, Section 31 would approach her. It would be pragmatic. Exactly one of the core principles of Section 31 follows in the defending of the Federation. No doors closed, no price too high. I agree. Muptastic. I don't think that Section 31 approaching Georgiou was a bad idea. If I was Section 31, I would definitively do it. It was either that or kill her, and she has a lot of advantages to keeping her alive. So that's what I would do. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'll give it a second or two, and then we'll move on to the Borg. That was just pretty quick because there wasn't really a lot of information there. I'm not really all that excited about it. They've let me down too many times for me to really get ingratiated in this, and I'm looking forward to them making Section 31 somehow being a Republican plot device, which will ultimately continue to divide us. Captain Killy too. Well, I want to see more of Tilly. I hope they bring more of her out. But I mean, again, I'll give it a couple more seconds, then we'll move on. Just to let you guys know, we'll be talking about the Borg. A guy named the AntiTrekker. For a lot of you people who are new, you probably weren't here when I was doing the Discovery breakdowns. AntiTrekker is a good friend of mine. He has his own channel, has about 4,000 to 5,000 subscribers. I included his video in the description below. We're actually going to be breaking down his video because I just think he did it really well, and discussing Borg and the way they treated Hugh. Did Section 31 have any involvement in Undiscovered Country? I wouldn't be surprised if the destruction of the moon involves Section 31 or being pulled into it. Lore Reloaded. AntiTrekker's rants are great. I love his vids. I like him. He likes making videos that criticize me for some reason, but I like him. He's my best friend. In my opinion, Star Trek Discovery is just an alternate universe, and the Discovery is Section 31 Black Ops research ship. I would like it to be a Section 31 research ship. I think if they had done that, that would have been a more interesting conversation. But overall, I don't think they're going to go over that. I think that Section 31 is going to be the big bad, and are probably going to be they're probably going to be removed from power. If they do anything with it, you're going to see the Discovery crew, specifically Michael Burnham, weaken them so much that they won't have any impact until Deep Space Nine. Now, that has the potential of being a great story. So I'm not necessarily against that. It would explain a lot, but I think that's what they're going to do. AntiTrekker found me in Jabba's palace. Yeah, he likes making jokes, even though he weighs more than me. Nate Watson up with the super chats. Nate Watson, one of my most awesome subscribers, though I love you all, if I'm being fair. Guys, if you want to help the channel grow, Super Chats is the way to make it happen, or become a fan of Patreon at patreon.com/Lore Reloaded. It's the only way that I can do these. I do these full-time. I do all of this full-time, and I'm going to start traveling, and that's because of you guys. Nate Watson says, perhaps black badges were originally an in-universe novelty, like how some toys have limited edition variations, and Section 31 co-opted them after they were made as an easy sign to locate each other, but that went public. I think so. Let me say this. I don't think they did that because I don't think Section 31 is malicious towards the Federation or Starfleet. I think they truly want to safeguard the Federation Starfleet, and doing that would put officers at risk that they didn't have to. And I couldn't see Section 31 doing that without a very, very good reason. They're willing to kill Starfleet officers. They're willing to kill Federation citizens. But that is one thing where they have trepidation, where they'll stop, where they'll make very, very sure. So I can't see them doing that. However, that's not without some canon to it. And that's a good point, Nate. So in the original series, you would see different ships would have different logos and even different pins. I don't even believe the Echelon was even a part. I might be wrong on this, but I don't believe the Echelon was even a part of the original series. The reason why they brought it in was because of the Enterprise, because the Enterprise was the only ship to survive and such as that. Now, I know there's notes in the background that's not canon, but said, it was always supposed to be the Echelon, but they never did. And it matters what happens on screen to me when I do these video breakdowns. So you do see them with different tags, different mementos, different ways of recognizing themselves. So it's not necessarily out of scope to say that maybe this was something different that maybe Starfleet Security used. Kind of what someone else said that the badges were Starfleet Security. I don't think Section 31 would do that. And that's not consistent with the rest of the universe, which generally use the same kind of echelon, but still, it's possible. So that has some use to it. At Lore Reloaded, hopefully the black badges are incredibly specialized devices capable of things that only Section 31 has the tech to do. I could see Section 31 doing that. I think that would be very interesting. Muptastic, I think you have a great point. Section 31, for want of a better term, are fanatics to preserve the Federation. They have suicide devices in their bodies. That's true. Starbase Lore. Starbase Lore is a channel that has recently come out. He likes doing breakdowns of ships and stuff. You guys should check him out. He's new, so there's a couple of things here and there, but overall, I think he gives some solid information. Actually, a resource I now use if I'm looking up a ship that I haven't done. I use Memory Alpha, Trek Yard, Starbase Lore, just because he has some really good information. Starbase Lore says, but would Section 31 members know of each other? I don't think the organization is linked. Maybe they're like cells that work towards one goal, with one person being aware of the cell. I agree that they're probably broken down into cells. That way that if one's caught, they can't blow the entire organization. So I completely agree with that. Do you think Section 31 would survive in Warhammer 40,000? I don't. What if Georgiou is only using Section 31 to recover her power, or at least contact her allies in the mirror universe? Absolutely. If she joins Section 31, make no mistake, it is only so that she can betray Section 31 and gain power. And I think we'll see that. All right, so anything else before we move on? We're going to start talking about the Borg, get into the mainstay of it. But aren't Section 31 and its members the real heroes of Star Trek? It depends on how you look at it. I think that they have a legitimate argument. I don't think it's very Gene Roddenberry. I think it's as far as Roddenberry as you can get. But they have a legitimate argument. Reunification of Star Trek inches closer as CBS and Viacom merger talks above to the new stage. Man, I hope Discovery. I hope Star Trek is bought by Disney. That'd be the best thing. By what we've seen in Trek, they seem to be more successful than the Tal Shiar Obsidian Order at maintaining their secrecy and getting things done. Section 31 is infinitely better at getting things done than the Tal Shiar or Obsidian Order ever were. What if Michael Burnham joined Section 31? Then it would instantly turn into a great place where unicorns and everybody flies by night and everybody loves each other and there would be nothing but happiness. That is what would happen. Star Trek Espionage would make a great series. I overall concur, but I think that it wouldn't be Star Trek. I mean, I would like it, but I think that it wouldn't necessarily be quote-unquote Star Trek. All right, guys, we're going to get started on this. We're going to be taking a look, as I said, we're going to be taking a look at the AntiTrekker, who put a video together. And I was actually just going to break it down. To be honest with you, I was just going to go and do it myself, but I think he says it a lot better. Plus, again, AntiTrekker is a great channel. If you're subscribed to me, you should subscribe to him. You'll really like the stuff he does. He does breakdowns kind of like mine from a different perspective. We have a lot of differing opinions. And I hate his avatar, but I think he does a lot of interesting stuff. And he's willing to go into conversations that I'm not. He'll be talking about liberal and progressives and his opinion on them. Not necessarily reflective of mine, but his opinions on them in here too, and we're going to break that down. But let's go ahead and just jump into it. The Game's Edge, you rock, sir. You rock. Thank you so much. John Braddock, thank you for subscribing to Starbase Lore. Check them out. And if you like them, great. If you don't, that's understandable. I should say I don't necessarily try to push people to subscribe to people, but I'll give you people I think you should take a look at. Sean Moore says, I think the Borg are the Federation by another name. They want to get everything into the Federation. They want everyone to think the same and do not tolerate individuals. I would agree with that. By the way, he says, I love you being blunt. I'm always this blunt, generally. Laura, do you know what this means? If Paramount, Viacom, and CBS merge, it means they can merge the Kelvin universe with the Prime universe so we can have the best of both worlds. It also means that they could destroy and go out of their way to make anything that Paramount and Viacom did that was good, make sure that it sucked. That it sucked the ever-loving life out of it. Anything that could suck, I mean, it's like a Hoover vacuum on all that is good. So that could happen too. Renee, too libertarian point of view. Yeah, I mean, again, you may not like him. If you don't like him, don't subscribe to him. All right, let's begin this. Let me know how you guys can hear it. I know it can be a little quiet on his side. If it is, let me know.
And cruel thing, he orders the away team back. Crusher objects and...
We can't leave him here, he won't survive.
I think the captain understands that.
I don't.
The Borg usually collect their dead.
No, Riker, they do not collect their dead. We have never seen the Borg collect the dead. We have seen them disintegrate their dead, but... whatever. Picard, of course, has the unique perspective on the Borg. Considering that he was once a part of the collective, he understands what they are, how they work, how dangerous they are. And when Dr. Crusher says,
pretty, please, can we keep him?
Picard, of course, says yes. Now, of course, we know from Best of Both Worlds that if you suddenly disconnect a Borg from the collective, it dies. So Geordi sets up a special cell that cuts the Borg off from the collective, and he immediately lives. Because... quantum. Troy attempts to counsel Picard over his difficulty in dealing with the Borg, and Picard explains that he has carefully weighed the risks and has
Now, it's going to go for a minute or two. We're not watching all of this, but let me know about the volume. I just increased it.
Concluded that he is doing the right thing. Then, of course, he changed his mind and had the Borg beamed onto the ship. In the Borg cell, Dr. Crusher and a medic are working on the Borg, while Worf, Geordi, and a security guard all watch from the other side of a force field, taking bets on when the medic is going to get killed. Picard comes in and asks Geordi if he can access the Borg command structure, and Geordi tells Picard that, of course, it was Data that managed to access the Borg systems, so it would probably be better equipped to... I mean, he says, well, he could try to do it, but it would be tough. Picard then asks Geordi to come up with a computer virus that would infect the collective and wipe them out.
Okay, so here's where I want to go with this piece, and then we'll jump to 650, which is a little bit further away. This is talking about Iborg, if you guys have seen it or not. Here's my problem with everything about the beginning of it. The way Crusher works and the way Crusher interacts is so incredibly stupid to me that I can't believe that Picard went along with it. Crusher was there and saw what they did. Crusher saw the destruction of Wolf 359. She had to operate and take all of these Borg implants out of Picard and saw what it did to him. And so for her to at any point be like, hey, let's bring this very dangerous thing on to save it is beyond stupid in my opinion. Even for a doctor, because you can't just at any point watch what these things did and be okay with it. The Right Gamers say, we are the Federation. Resistance is futile. All your root beer belongs to us. From this day forward, you will live in peace and serve science, which apparently is also love. Thank you so much, Right Gamers. Without your guys' support, there's no way I could do this. Even from the beginning, I get quote unquote just triggered by this because it is just ridiculous. At most, you should leave the Borg, just leave and just be on your merry. Or if they're going to pull him on, they should do originally, not to save him, but to study the living hell out of him. This thing caused thousands upon thousands of deaths and puts the Enterprise unnecessarily in danger if you're not going to try to learn more about the Borg. And of course, that's what Picard wanted to do. He wanted to learn more about the Borg. Crusher wants to save a life. That's ridiculous to me. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, and we're talking about this now, is because you're going to see this mentality, this I'm more important. My ideas are more important than yours. The Federation philosophy is so important that we're willing to get people dead. And so I wanted to play this part just because it really points out what's going to talk about in the future. Nate Watson up in the house. This episode makes more sense when you remember Picard has the hots for Crusher. Crusher's behavior still doesn't make sense, but it's a partial fix. So because Picard wants to have sex, he's going to doom everybody. That makes a lot of sense for Picard. Not completely out of his range. He's really acting like Riker. So the Borg aren't covered by the Prime Directive, says Micah Leith. I don't think they would be in this case. They have warp technology. And in theory, you could say they sent out a distress beacon, which even warp technology, distress beacons you can ignore even if they don't have warp technology. Travis, do the Borg have the ability to make new tech, or do they have to rely on other species? According to Voyager, they have to rely on other species. All right, so let's break this down.
Killjoy Crusher wants to point out the entire collective with this computer virus. And of course, Dr. Killjoy Crusher wants to point out that they are talking about wiping out an entire race. In effect, genocide. Picard and Riker counter with the idea that if we do not do this to the Borg will likely wipe out the Federation. Crusher objects and says that despite all we know of the collective, when she looks at this Borg in the cell, she does not see the collective. She sees a
boy who is hurt and needs help.
I wonder how she would feel if that Borg looked more like Worf than, say, Wesley. She does not want to kill him because he is young and sweet and cute and innocent. Picard counters with the fact that the Borg have not shown up in 2 years, which means they must be ready for an attack, and we need to do anything we can to survive. They go down to the cell.
All right, so that is... I actually wouldn't even go that way. Now, he talks a lot about how they make Hugh look like this teddy bear, which they do. He's not wrong on that. But I think that... I think she would feel much differently if that Borg assimilated Wesley right in front of her and used Wesley to take over the ship. Enslaved Wesley or LaForge or anybody. It doesn't, they do, the fact that he doesn't look like a normal Borg is for the audience. But it's absolutely right. And again, this goes back to the we are right, all life is precious. pacifism that happened with Wolf 359. It was still there, and you can see it here. This Borg is as dangerous as an entire cube. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. At Lore Reloaded, completely different topic. Just curious, is Wes Crusher Picard's son, or what do others think? There's no way that Wes Crusher could be Picard's son, because Wes Crusher should have not existed as a character. Don't like the character, don't like the actor. Be happy if he was retconned out. Would be okay. I would say Discovery is great. If Discovery made it so Wes Crusher never existed, I would be so pro Discovery. I would be the biggest apologist. The biggest apologist. But yeah, so, I mean, guys, let me know what your opinions are on this. But this, again, this is just the entire reason for Picard being an idiot. Not necessarily treason, but getting people killed. He is as culpable as Janeway when it comes to the Borg. Maybe even more so, because people can try to make a argument that Janeway at least kind of had some reason to go Borg and not Species 8472. No reason here. It starts with this pacifistic, we don't always have to be at war. This person is not what his culture says he is. It's what I say he is. So let's try to save him, even though it's going to get more people assimilated, more people killed. That includes both Federation and Starfleet, as well as any other. Both Picard and Crusher are in my opinion, have blood on their hands for everything the Borg do after this. Jordan Sullivan, Wes isn't a Q. He's basically a guy. I will ban you. I will ban you more than I have ever banned a person on the face of the planet. Wesley Crusher is nothing good. At Lore Reloaded, Reginald Denny was having a mental meltdown in The Next Generation and Voyager because he could not say anything about the Magic Unicorn Spore Drive. I would too. The hate for Wesley is strong in you. Embrace the dark side. I can't stand that. I can't stand the character. I can't stand the actor. He's probably the only actor in the Trek universe that I wouldn't mind not seeing. I would like to meet all of the others. Every one of them. Even Neelix. Not him. At Paladin Demo, yeah, what I'm saying is that the Borg was basically enslaved by us and turned into the Mechaconus? Okay. Federation doctrine has a tendency to make its members lawful stupid at times. I would agree. Tyrannosaurus Rex, instead of a lost lamb, the Borg should have been treated as a POW enemy soldier. Of that, I can agree. Nate Watson back up in the house. Enterprise shown what a handful of droids can do. Absolutely. Absolutely. Enterprise, Voyager, a lot of the Next Generation, First Contact, all of them show why this is stupid. This is utterly stupid. It is absolutely ridiculous. The fact that the Enterprise wasn't assimilated is completely based on plot armor. 100%. Now, let's take a look at what Guinan does and says. Guinan, her entire civilization was destroyed, turned into Borg. She is an outcast. Let's take a look at her perspective here.
And we have a guest on board.
Yes.
The Fawn only do him as an it, and Guinan do him as an it. You know, Picard really is a racist. Picard and Guinan do a little bit of fencing, and Guinan asks about the Borg.
I understand we have a guest on board.
Yes.
Is that wise?
I'm not sure. I hope so.
I thought I understood you, Picard, but I don't understand this.
It was an errand of mercy. He was injured. Dr. Crusher decided for humanitarian reasons to care for him.
They're gonna come after us, you know that. You of all people know that.
Shall we go again?
Oh.
Okay, so the AntiTrekker goes into how this is just inconsistent writing. He's right on that. Let me see one quick second. All right. So, yeah, we'll bring that up in a second. So, he's right on that. She, Matthew Sweetser, wow, a little offended by Wes hate. Might not be the channel for you. She is absolutely right on this. 100% absolutely right that they're looking at this wrong. Now, it is inconsistent. Picard is trying to play Crusher's side when he doesn't feel that way. And I ignore the inconsistent writing because that can happen. But she is coming at it from a perspective that should be. Someone said that he should be treated as a POW. At best, he should be treated as a POW. That should be the cream of the crop for him. Just absolutely. But no, they're treating him like a guest. This is the Borg. Now, the AntiTrekker would call me racist, but because he calls Picard racist throughout this, because he just treats him as an it. He is an it. Absolutely, he is an it. The Borg are not people. They stopped being people when they were assimilated. So you're not talking to one person. You're not talking to 3 of 5 or Hugh. You're just talking to an extension of something that wants to destroy you. So she is absolutely right. By the way, someone mentioned Clara Oswald, who is absolutely a ridiculous character, the biggest of Mary Sue's, makes Michael Burnham look well written. Clara Oswald. At Lore Reloaded, this episode proved to me how awful the Federation are. They kept a Borg alive who had wiped them out, yet they let entire species get wiped out because of the Prime Directive. Yeah. Mechanicus. Okay. Yeah, you're right about that. I didn't even consider it that way. But yeah, I mean, they're just bad all the way around. Johnny Doe, Clara Oswald is from Doctor Who. She is the wet dream of some writer. There's no reason. She breaks all canon within Doctor Who, which is hard to do because Doctor Who doesn't even worry about canon. At Lore Reloaded, the whatever is the technology theocrats and the Imperium of Man. Paladin Demo and I are pointing out how perhaps Star Trek is a precursor to that. Okay, well, that's a good point. All right, so let's continue on, going with what he said. Let's see. And by the way, I feel confident Clara Oswald was brought up because people like seeing me get mad. Everyone knows that Everyone knows that I don't like Clara, nor Wes. That's why they're bringing him up.
I don't get it. The scene ends with Guinan pretending to be hurt, so that when Picard asks if she's okay, she can touch him with her foil, showing that if you feel sorry for your enemy, they will kill you. Wait. So, I agree with Guinan? Oh, man. I don't like... So, Geordi...
Even if they're not doing it as a way of attempting to, as a trick, even if they're not using tactics, that's exactly how it is. If you feel bad for the Borg, if you feel bad and want to help the Borg, they will destroy you. In Voyager, I forget the species, but there was a species that said the Borg are like a storm. They do what they do. You can't be mad at it. You can't be mad at a storm. And that's true. The Borg are just, it is what they do. If you try to help them, you're only going to screw over yourself. That's just the way it is. If you don't like the facts, that's not my problem. Just don't get other people killed because you think that you have a superior, enlightened view, and anyone who doesn't believe what you believe is wrong. Because that's exactly what this is. Picard is looking at it from a very, very pragmatic way. And he's looked to be wrong, the wrong think, because it's not the Federation ideal. And it's because of this, he'll be changed. He'll get the Federation ideal at the end, and because of that, has blood on his hands. Laura, have you did any videos or live streams? I'm doing a live stream right now, buddy. And Laura, so the spawn of Clara and Wesley should be your nightmare. I don't think they could exist. I don't think God would allow that. Helping the Borg is like destroying the shelters and homes of people in a bad hurricane. Helping the Borg is like trying to help... Helping the Borg is like attempting to help the AIDS virus progress and stay alive within its human hosts. Anytime someone wants to help the Borg, it is attempting to help AIDS or any other virus that serves no purpose but to destroy and kill. Corey 2000, the problem is the Borg is both human and not human at the same time, like the zombie of your loved ones. Yeah, I would agree that one of the terror of them is they turn you into something that you're not and make you do that to other people. That's why when they become Borg, they stop being people. And that may make me, as AntiTrekker would call me, a racist for that. But I'm sorry, it's the only way to survive. It is the only way to survive. For your information, AIDS is not a virus. It's a condition. You mean the virus HIV? Yes. Yes, pedantically, I mean the virus HIV. Lore, what about 7 of 9? Success or failure? I would say that that is an anomaly, and I would say that the Federation doesn't have the resources to do to 7 of 9 what they do to all of the others and all of the other Borg. In fact, Voyager himself, Janeway, doesn't do that. Janeway even has the chance, the opportunity to save 7 of 9's father, possibly his mother, and she doesn't. She gets them killed. So 7 of 9 is a phenomenon and cannot be the standard, or you will get people killed. In the comic Assimilation Squared, the Doctor Who TNG crossover comic, the Cybermen were owning the Borg, and the Doctor convinces Picard to help the Borg defeat the Cybermen. Okay. The Federation not have resources? Impossible. Impossible. Let's go on to the next step. Nate Watson, from a storytelling view, Voyager did the idea of rehab for disconnected Borg better than TNG did. 7 of 9 and the Borg kids were compelling. Hugh wasn't. I can agree with that, but I will say that it's still not pragmatic. That when you look at the Borg, you have to pull a Janeway. It's the only way. You don't have enough time to say everybody, and that's unfortunate. By the way, guys, if you're watching this, please remember to give me a like, a thumbs up, or a thumbs down. I don't care. 124 people watching. I should have at least 124 added together. We're watching AntiTrekker right now. If you like what you're seeing, you like his commentary, check the description. And if you like what you see, definitely subscribe to him. More importantly, for all of that, if you want to have a chance to win a Eagle Moss collectible, a Galaxy class, free of charge, just comment when this video goes live. Not right now, but when it goes live. And you'll be entered into a chance. And if you're a patron for as little as $1 a month, you'll be entered to win an XO1 Eagle Moss. I love Eagle Moss. I don't get paid anything by them. In fact, I'm doing this all at my dime. And so this is a good opportunity for me to show you guys a really great company and some of their good stuff. But yeah, so let's continue on. And again, it's because of super chats and things like that that keep this going. So if you would be so kind, I appreciate it. If you can't, I just like that you guys are hanging out with me. Trying to type on my cell sucks. I was trying to say, have you did any Doctor Who related videos? Yes, I have. Not many. I went over the Time War, and I did a couple others. Doctor Who's really hard. Doctor Who doesn't care about canon, and so that's very, very hard to do. Lore Reloaded. Archer understood this and made the hard decision to kill the Borg who were assimilating by the Borg. Kill the people who were being assimilated. This was Archer done really well. That's a good point. One thing I loved about that episode with Archer, it was just Archer done really well. Archer, at the beginning, and through most of the episode, doesn't want to kill them. Doesn't want to destroy the Borg. But he leaves it open. He has a conversation with the Vulcan chick, and I forget her name. I love her. She's one of my favorite characters. But the Vulcan XO. And he does very, very well because he's on the fence, and ultimately he realizes they can't be saved and makes the hard decision. Archer was written incredibly well in that episode, in my opinion. T'Pol. If the Federation had the Imperium of man's attitude, then the Borg would be wiped out for being Xeno scum. In fact, they would. All right, let's go to the next one.
Cute our bouncing baby Borg is. We find
This one's going to be a little bit longer. It'll be a couple of minutes. I apologize. I hope you guys are enjoying it.
cute our bouncing baby Borg is. We find out that the Borg's name is 3 of 5. But, in typical Star Trek left-wing, fascist, intolerant, racist, xenophobic manner,
His opinions on liberalism may not reflect my own.
they gotta give him a good human proper name. Hugh, because, you could never have a character with just a couple of numbers for a name, right? Oh. Yeah. Never mind. I know some of you are thinking I'm going too far with the whole intolerant far left thing, but look at this clip.
Listen, 3rd of 5. Dr. Crusher here has repaired a lot of the damage to your biochip implants. We want to run a few tests.
I'd like to show you a few diagrams and ask you some questions about them. It's very simple, really.
You will be assimilated.
Yes, but before that happens, could we ask you a few questions?
We will answer.
All right, hang on just a second here, 3rd of 5.
What is your designation?
You mean our names? We don't have designations. We have names. I'm Beverly. This is Geordie.
Do I have a name?
Do you want one?
A name.
I'm Beverly. He's Geordie. And you?
You.
You...
No, wait a minute. You. What do you think?
You.
No, not you. Hugh.
Hugh.
Okay, now, I'm Beverly.
I'm Geordie.
We are Hugh.
This is a great example of liberal intolerance on display here. Why, you may ask? Because liberals, when they want to force you to give up your way of thinking, simply pretend that they are helping you, even if they must lie, or at least leave out important facts along the way. When Dr. Crusher told 3rd of 5 that they do not have designations, they have names, that is a steaming pile of crap. They mean the same thing. In fact, if you look up...
All right, so I think that the Federation, Starfleet, is definitely left-leaning. I think they're left-leaning authoritarian. I think they're the worst part of the left. I think they ultimately. That said, he has a point here too, and I don't think this is necessarily reflective of the culture in the United States where I live. I think you see some of the extreme, and it's edging that way, but I don't think we're there yet. But he's right in the way that they're approaching this. I am right, you are wrong, and now we're going to try to do what we think is right. In any normal scenario that isn't Trek, that isn't the Trek universe, this specific way of looking at it would get people killed. Again, the Enterprise should be absolutely destroyed or assimilated. And the fact that they make Picard and Guinan look to be the bad guys when they're the only ones being pragmatic about the entire affair is frustrating. People keep asking me, off topic for a second, people keep asking me to do a review of Macross or a breakdown of the anime Macross. I'm going to take a look at it. If it's good enough, I will. I probably won't do any anime breakdowns. But if you're looking for like an Anime Reloaded channel, I'm not saying that won't be happening in the future, but I'd stay tuned. But going back to this. Paladin demo. So replacing numerical values with wording is liberal, forceful thinking. Honestly, it's easier to name something than number something. Okay, Paladin demo. So let's say this. Let's say a guy that you've captured a person, and their name is, I don't know, Jinyu. And they're captured, and it says, you know what? Jinyu is not really a name. It's not really a title. We're going to name you Jerry. We're going to name you Jerry because that's what a real name is. Jinyu? No, that's your slave name. We're going to name you Jerry. You look like a Jerry. It's the exact same process. They don't like what the culture of the Borg are, so they're going to try to change it. And yet they somehow consider the Borg like real people and stuff like that. This gets... Your name is Toby. Yeah, it's not Jerry. It's Toby. They, That's from something it didn't want it to be, isn't it? Yeah, Johnny Doe. I just got that reference. Johnny Doe, why'd you make me say that? I'm going to remember that, sir. All right, wow, that completely derailed me. What was I talking about? Yeah, so not only are they impressing their culture upon this person, but the pragmatic, the ones that's not going to get them killed, are wrong. They shouldn't be humanizing this Borg. I'm sorry, this Borg is going to go and continue to kill and hurt other people. We have no other evidence from that. No other evidence than they'll do anything but that. So... that is just... it's just horrific, in my opinion. And they're wasting time when they need to figure out what this Borg is doing and how to use it to defeat the rest of the collective. Now, here's the one thing. I like to give credit where credit's due. I like to sometimes try to admit when maybe I'm wrong or there's another chance. So, it's possible that the change that they were expecting to see, there's no evidence for this. Even if they were right, I would still be railing about how they were wrong. There's no evidence of this. But it's possible that changing this person, or attempting to instill like independence in this person, could change the culture of the Borg. But let me ask you this. Tyrell and Alexander, wow, you are overreaching for meaning. Please... please tell me how in a minute. But in Mass Effect, I think it was Mass Effect. I don't think it was Mass Effect 2. And there's going to be spoilers if you haven't played Mass Effect. You're fighting these AI, and you get to the mainframe of the AI, and you have the opportunity. You can kill all of them, or you can fundamentally change them into your allies. So here's my question. Which is worse, in your opinion? And I don't think there's a right answer here. Fundamentally changing a person and making them not what they are, making them do something that they would never do, that they would resent, or killing them. Which is worse? Because that's what we're proposing at best. If this was to work, if we were to assume this was to work, and we have no evidence that it would, pragmatically, we should try to use this Borg to destroy all the Borg Collective. But even if we assume this would work, there is very little difference to me in infecting a person so that they will change fundamentally what the others believe. Forcibly, by the way. This isn't an argument that they're doing. This isn't trying to convince it. I'm all about the marketplace of ideas. I think that most ideas, if not all ideas, should have the opportunity to be challenged. I think anything should be put up in front. Count Dankula going to jail is just scary as hell to me. I don't think I'll ever go to the United Kingdom or Scotland now. I don't ever intend to say anything. I don't agree with what he did, but that just scares the hell out of me. If they're willing to put someone into jail for a joke, God help me. But if they had allowed him to say what he said and then allowed people to talk about it, attack it, why it's bad, then you can defeat ideas. But they're not doing that. They're infecting this guy with this Borg, with their own opinion of what is right. And then they're going to use that to change all of the other Borg. And fundamentally change them. What's the difference? Nate Watson. If I was told to wage Nate Watson, give him $20, always helping me out, brother. I owe you lunch first time we meet. If I was told to reimagine this episode, I'd have Picard want to disconnect and save this drone, and the others not share this view. Picard was saved from the Borg, but here he wants to deny that opportunity for someone else. That's somewhat of a good idea. I could see it both ways. I could see him wanting to save or just wanting to destroy the Borg because he knows of what it is. So I could see that. I think I could see it both ways. Lore, Laughable Larry, up always as well. Someone who gives generously. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Lore, the Borg impressed themselves on these cultures and took away their identity by force. The crew has attempted to give that back. Now, isn't that an interesting consideration? When the Borg did it, when the Borg wanted to impose their ideas on somebody, that's bad. When Starfleet does it, when Crusher, a ginger, wants to do it, that's good. Because it's our ideals. It's just like Discovery in that way. And that's a great point, Laughable Larry. I'm glad you brought that up. It's just like Discovery. When the Klingons want to do their own thing and do Klingons only, they're the bad guys. When you're Starfleet only, you're the good guys. And yet you're using the same concepts. That's a good point. What is the difference between fundamentally changing someone and killing them? I don't know that there is a difference. Corey 2000, do the Borg have culture? They do. The Borg have a culture, though I would use that somewhat loosely. Their culture is being connected interchangeably, is being one voice, is wanting to expand. I'm not saying the Borg are great people. I'm just saying that them doing this is no different, in my opinion. William Price, it would have been better to immediately destroy him, just as Guinan wanted to do. Drew Herbert, the Borg are one individual consciousness in multiple bodies. We keep thinking of them as separate individuals. Only when separated can they be treated as people. They speak as one voice. There are lots of voices in their heads, so that's brought up. Paladin Demo, that's a hard one to answer. The idea was to reawaken individuality and self-awareness, maybe even self-preservation to be continued. Yeah, but yes and no. I think that the Borg, if you're going to destroy the Borg, then destroy the Borg. And he brings this up at one point. AntiTrekker talks about this, and I don't have it here, but he talks about how at this point we don't know the culture of the Borg. Everything that's been presented to us leads us to believe that they do actually have their own thriving culture with kids that actually are born into the Borg and are raised. Now, that's retconned later. But at this point, it would be a destruction of their culture as we know it. But yeah, Norkel Prepper, kill all the Borg, humanity first. Humanity first indeed, good sir. Alright, and then at some point in this video, AntiTrekker's not here, we're just looking at his videos, he couldn't make it. At some point in this video, he tells me to suck it, not joking, he literally does tell me to suck it. Never told me what he wants me to suck, that was weird. Hey Laura, which captain in your opinion handled the Borg threat the best? Probably Riker, but he was the only one to ever... That's the only combat he ever did that was done well. And the only he was going to get his ship destroyed. Every time Riker has been in a major combat, he has almost gotten the ship destroyed. And this was the only time I felt that it was justified that the ship could have been destroyed and him not be wholly incompetent. Micah Leith, 7 stated that the Borg don't reproduce. Yes, she did. Voyager retconned a lot of things. Voyager changed a lot of things. I'm not saying it didn't. We see babies being assimilated and have reason to believe that they may have actually had babies. But all of that, of course, is retconned away in Voyager. If we can negotiate with the Borg, then let's do it. But that's not possible. They will not stop till they take away our life. So defend yourself and stop them at any cost. I agree. All right, so let's get into this piece. Hey, Laura, hypothetical question. How would you react to the Borg for the first time? How would I react to the Borg? With terror? Absolute terror? Tyrell Alexander coming in, not even knowing what I'm all about. You harp against liberals. Your arguments sounded like you are liberal. LOL. Unfortunately, brother, you don't know what I am. So I'm not sure how you could make that opinion. Surely, if Starfleet were far left, they would think all cultures subjectively equally. I think they do. That's a theory, but problem is trying to create an individual in a hive mentality like in the Zerg, Tyranid, Xenomorph. One I've seen done is Starfinder Shirin.
and indoctrinating our little Borg throughout.
It's pretty clear Lore is a classical liberal. I don't go out of my way to talk about what my beliefs are. I had a channel where I did politics for about 1 to 2 years. It was an absolute waste of my time. Nothing good ever came from it. And I like doing this, and I like talking to you guys about this. It is very rare that you'll ever get me to talk about my beliefs, unless it's a part of the lore. I will say this: I'm pretty moderate on most things. I see advantages in both sides. Archer was a good captain. We got Nate Watson again. Archer was a good captain regarding the Borg. The threat was handled, and he lost no crew. Comparable to Riker with less resources. I agree. Laughable Larry. AntiTrekker needs a hug. A hug and drugs.
Indoctrinating our little Borg throughout this episode, and we are supposed to be cheering them on. So Geordi goes to 10 forward and tells Guinan about how cute and adorable Hugh is, and Guinan is incensed because this week she's bigoted by her past experience with the Borg and refuses to see them as having a right to live. Geordi calls Hugh a kid who is far from home.
Do you know that you are the second person today to refer to that Borg as though it was some sort of lost child?
Anyway, I'm having second thoughts about what we're doing here. Programming him like some sort of walking bomb, sending him back to destroy the others.
Let me tell you something. When that kid's big brothers come looking for him, they're not going to stop till they find him. And then they're going to come looking for us. And they will destroy us. And they will not do any of the soul searching that you are apparently doing right now.
Then why don't you go and talk to him? It might not be so clear-cut then.
Because I wouldn't have anything to say.
Then why don't you just listen? That is what you do best, isn't it?
There are a couple of problems with this scene. First, Guinan is completely correct, and second, isn't Guinan the one person on the ship who everyone always listens to? Heck, back in Q Who, she had some mild heartburn and the whole ship went on alert. Now she is flat out arguing against what they are doing, and they say that she simply does not understand. They detect a...
So he's absolutely right. Guinan was
absolutely...
Guinan was absolutely right. This thing should not be treated like a person. This is a Borg. This is something that's going to get you killed. Absolutely. And I've said it before, and I'm going to try to answer some questions you guys brought up before that, but I've said this before. Even if this was an enemy, even let's say it was a Klingon, like during the Federation-Klingon War, I'm not saying you should treat the Klingon like an it or anything like that. The Borg are special in that way. But the Klingon, you don't let them empathize with you. You don't let them tell you about their story. You don't let them get under your skin, because that's how you get killed. And you know what? If you're ever in a war and you're captured, the first thing you want to do is humanize yourself to your captors. If you are ever kidnapped, humanize the living hell out of yourself. Start talking to them about your family, about your aspirations, about what you do, because they will humanize themselves and it'll get you killed. As soon as this was seen by Picard, as soon as he saw Crusher and Geordi starting to humanize, he should have removed them from this operation. They are no longer valuable assets when it comes to saving the Federation and the Delta Quadrant. Guinan is absolutely 100%. She has nothing to say nor nothing to listen to. At Lore Reloaded and... Nope, sorry. Hey, Lore, since Star Trek Discovery plays fast and loose with canon, could you see them having a Borg episode? I absolutely could. I don't think they will. I don't think they're that stupid, but I do think that they could. Let's see. You are an independent thinker? Glad to hear it. I try. I mean, there are things... None of us are truly independent thinkers. We have biases that we can't get past, but I try to. There was one other. If you don't mind me asking, does your other channel still exist? No, that's not the one I want to ask, but I'll go ahead and answer it. Do you say it was a waste of time? Because it was a waste of time. It only continued to break people apart, and it doesn't exist. But I'm sure when I get popular enough, people will go and find stuff with me talking. I no longer actually hold most of the opinions I did on that channel, in fact. So if you guys want to see me saying some extreme stuff, well, it's not extreme, but it's leaning one way or the other. We may never know the collective's memories of their early years are fragmented. They barely remember the time when they had a handful of systems. That's true. Well, if you really want to, for the Borg, and now would be the time to fight the Borg really hard to shield against a lot of heavy projectile-based weapons. Okay. I'm not convinced that projectile weapons would defeat the Borg. I think that they could have some type of shield that could come up against that. Or their phasic shields, not fields, but their subspace fields would adapt to it. Someone said that this channel, everybody is now a collective of the Lorg, so you're right. All right, let's take a look at a later point. Laura, do you miss Star Trek Discovery Sundays? I miss hanging out with you guys and like that, but I don't necessarily miss the days. I don't necessarily miss having to watch that show. But I miss that we couldn't commiserate about it. Learn the Quran if you do. Nope. Projectiles wouldn't do much except feed their ability to regenerate their ship.
Best of both worlds from standard orbit. So Guinan goes to the brig to examine the Borg and prove that she is right about, oh, he is so cute. Geordi continues his work on examining the Borg, and when Hugh asks why the Federation studies rather than assimilate, Geordi goes into the concept of individuality and friendship, and Hugh calls Geordi his friend. Aw, he is so cute. Wait, but why is Geordi his friend? It was Dr. Crusher that was trying to establish a friendship with him. Geordi was watching Dr. Crusher and became conflicted. But now Geordi and Hugh are best buds? Really? Anyway, Geordi and Data show Picard their plan to show Hugh an impossible shape that will hurt the collective's combined brains so that they die? Or something? Well, I guess in the end it makes about as much sense as them taking an early nap causing them to explode in Best of Both Worlds. After the briefing, Geordi states that he is not sure that they should move forward with the plan.
I have to admit, I've been having second thoughts about this plan.
In what way?
Well...
Boom, you're off the project. I'm having second thoughts that we shouldn't save the Federation, we shouldn't save Starfleet, we shouldn't save the Delta Quadrant. Bye. See ya. You're reassigned. I need the second best engineer to finish this for me. You're gone.
I've been getting to know him. The Borg.
I see.
He's not what I expected, Captain. He's got feelings. He's homesick. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right using him this way.
Centuries ago, when laboratory animals were used for experiments, scientists would sometimes become attached to the creatures. This would be a problem if the experiment involved killing them. I would suggest that you unattach yourself from the Borg, Mr. LaForge.
Wow.
Now, look. So first off, yeah, he points out Picard is racist because he's treating them like animals or something. Again, left-leaning bias here. Here's one of the ways that I think that Star Trek does better when it comes to its agenda. It makes testing on animals and hurting animals bad. Picard's obviously the bigot. So they make Picard justify this by the hurting of animals for tests that ultimately result in the animal being killed. Now, I don't necessarily want to talk about if that's right or wrong, but it's meant to look wrong. And I think this is a subtle way of putting that in people's minds. And that's done a lot better than with Discovery make the Empire great again bullshit. That aside, he should have, at this point, again, it's like an infection. We believe we're right, so let's just go ahead and not do what will protect people. Geordi, the conversation should have cut off as soon as Geordi said he's having second thoughts. You're gone. Yeah, and again, showing them an impossible shape to kill them, I don't know how that works. You would think that they would keep that on the back burner when the Borg attacked again. During First Contact, why don't we send them a shape that they couldn't comprehend? Even if it's a slow chance, right? Tyrell Alexander, Picard is facing his pain of assimilation, personified in this Borg who is now on his ship. Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that, but he's not wrong to want to use the Borg to destroy the collective. It's like I always tell the truth and I'm lying to you, and then that robot head blows up. Lore T-loaded. Exactly. Geordi should have been relieved of duty for this task. Absolutely. And Picard was in the wrong. Lore Reloaded. I think that if Data was the one to deal with the Borg throughout this episode, he wouldn't have become attached. Either he wouldn't have, Or it would have made more sense to me if he could maybe somewhat understand a little bit better, simply and try to point out, he's different just like me. I could see it coming from Data a lot more than I could Geordi, but it's wrong regardless. Just alter the embed code that the shape generates through continued processing to not be a kill command and just shut down the Borg Wi-Fi. Okay. Everyone knows the easiest way to destroy the Borg is to upload Windows into their operating system. It's funny because it's true. All right, let's continue to the next one. The next one is about a minute.
Card since Geordi failed, and they're talk about Hugh a little bit. Guinan asks, how could you talk to Hugh and not have any doubts? After all, he is so cute. And Picard says that he did not see the need to talk to him.
2 days ago, you were so upset about the Borg even being on the ship that you tore my foil out of it. And now you're here questioning whether it should be treated as the enemy.
No, but when you talk to him face to face, can you honestly say you don't have any doubt?
I haven't talked to it.
Why not?
Saw no need.
If you're going to use this person...
It's not a person, damn it, it's a Borg!
Yep, Picard is a racist.
If you are going to use this person
I don't
to
necessarily
destroy
agree with
his
that.
race, you should at least look him in the eye once before you do it. Because I am not sure he is still a Borg.
Because it's been given a name by a member of my crew doesn't mean it's not a Borg. Because it's young doesn't mean that it's innocent. It is what it is. And in spite of efforts to turn it into some kind of pet, I will not alter my plans.
But if you don't talk to him at least once, you may find that decision a lot harder to live with than you realize.
Because Picard is...
Picard is absolutely right. Even if this person was an individual, even if this person is young, they're not innocent. They have probably assimilated tens to hundreds to thousands. And it's important to keep that in mind when you're fighting them. Beyond that, Guinan's entire people were wiped away by people just like this. And she so easily disregards what happened to her entire past. Nate Watson, again, giving. Thank you so much. Hey guys, I know some of you are getting frustrated that I'm missing. I do try to pick out and talk to everyone, but the only guaranteed way is through the super chats. You don't have to. I'm not trying to get you to go that way, but I get so many comments that I can only respond to so many, and because if I get 10 in 10 seconds, it's just not reasonable for me to respond. Super chats are the only guaranteed way. Not saying that that's the way you should go, not pushing you to give any money, just letting you know that's just the guaranteed way. Perhaps Hugh bonded with Geordi because they're both biotech composites. He wanted companionship with someone who understood his experience. That feels like a stretch to me. I guess, but I mean, again, it would make more sense for Data. Data's an android, which is closer to what Hugh is than what Geordi is. But maybe. Elo Reloaded, nope. Starfleet's greatest enemy, bad writing, a foe they can't defeat. Guinan let her emotions get in the way. So here's my thing with that. If Guinan was to get emotional, in my opinion, it would be the opposite way. It makes no sense. I never understand that. And maybe that's just me and that's the way I'm written. If somebody, and just the way I am, forgiveness to me is a lot harder than anger, than hate. It is easier to hate someone and to be angry with them than to forgive them. I think that's a lot of the reasons why it's something people try to strive for and why we see it in religion a lot, because it's very, very hard to do. I could see her being angry, hating, but not forgiving. That's hard for me to understand. I'm not saying it's maybe not. Maybe I'm the one broken in that, but I just, that doesn't seem reasonable. When the Borg assimilate one, they get two. The one assimilated and the other who can't shoot a friend. That's true. Had they killed the Borg, we wouldn't have 7. The Undyne would have entered our space. Transphobic torps wouldn't exist, or armor tech. It's crazy. Species 8472 would have never entered our space. The Borg are the one who brought Species 8472 into our space. That war would have never happened if the Borg had never existed. There's no reason to believe that we wouldn't have transphasic torpedoes or the armor tech that can be created without the need of the Borg. And Species 8472 arguably never would have started a war. They would have wanted peace with the Alpha Quadrant, which we see is what they arguably would have wanted later in the Voyager series. We wouldn't have 7 of 9. That much is true. At Lore Reloaded, the Borg are not people. They are an essence. If they are an essence, if they are anything, they are not worthy of being considered being called people. They are the Nazis 10 times. AntiTrekker is wrong. I agree, Michael Leith. They aren't people. They used to be people, and now they're a force of nature. And if we could save every one of them, if we could do something to make it so that we had 7 of 9 every time, that's great. We can't take that chance. They need to be destroyed. Lore, what do you think of the aliens in Voyager uploading a virus in their people kids and then having them assimilated to neutralize Borg cubes? Is that what they were doing to the kid in that one? I remember something about that. I don't know why they're putting it in kids. They're doing it in kids for an emotional response. I think that there should have been someone who, an adult, who could have not wanted, but sacrificed themselves. But what you're asking me is, would it be worth it to inject a kid to stop the Borg? And the answer is yes. Now you can make that appeal to emotion all you want. It doesn't change the answer. I would want to find another way, but if you're telling me I can save Starfleet, I could save the Federation, I could save the Delta Quadrant, and it just cost me a human life unrealized, then I would take that. And I'm sorry, I know that's people are going to get mad. They're going to use it as a clip, I'm sure, but that's just honest. That's what any reasonable person not on emotion would do it. Laughable Larry, you're really amazing. Keep up the awesome content. No, Laughable Larry, you're amazing, sir. You're amazing. So would you agree on the extermination? Would you agree on exterminatus on the Borg? Yes, I would. Destroy the Borg. The Borg are really nothing but a computer program, and as such, they should be treated that way. I agree. I think they did it to Icheb because they had to genetically engineer a baby before he was born to bear the virus. That way they used Icheb. That makes a lot more sense, Kale. Would I bioengineer a child that would be used to stop the Borg? Yeah. I'm sorry. I mean, that makes me a bad person. That's fine. You want to unsubscribe. I get it. But, yeah. I'm sorry. This is the Borg we're talking about, people. The Borg don't care. The Borg will walk in and do that to all of the babies. They'll either kill all of the babies or they'll assimilate them. You're asking me to sacrifice one or a couple for millions. And in a numbers game, I'll make that trade. I don't want to. I'm not saying that it makes me a good person. But I would. Johnny Doe, not that I disagree with you, but what is the difference with Hugh virus and using him as a cascading bomb than the Federation using dead bodies to kill Klingons in Star Trek Discovery? There's a couple of differences, I think. The first is that there's a couple things to it. First off, I will agree that it's not Starfleet to destroy a civilization. So in that, I think you're right. I think the Klingon was wrong and the Borg were wrong. But the Borg are a force of nature that will assimilate and destroy everything and either destroy you by making you into something different or completely destroy worlds. The Klingons subjugate, but still allow their people to exist. So doing something similar to wipe out the entire Klingon race, I wouldn't agree with. Using the dead, that's something I'll have to think on, but I don't know. There wasn't a ton of gain to it, in my opinion. They disabled that ship, sure. But there's a couple things to it, actually, the more I think about it. They had another way of doing it and having the same thing done. They just decided to use the dead versus using another means, which was more Starfleet, more honorable. I think I've said before, too, if they could save every Borg child, then they absolutely would. Or save every Borg, then we'd absolutely go that way. Picard would be a monster to try to destroy them outright if he could save everyone. It's just not feasible to do. Star Trek Discovery had another way to do it, another out. And I think the scale and the enemy you're fighting. Though, for me, that argument isn't necessarily complete, so I'll have to think on it. And if you'll remind me, maybe the next time you're on, we can discuss it a little bit more. Because that's something to think about, for sure. Star Trek Discovery, Klingons are now referred to as orc vampire monsters. Okay, I'll remember that. Humanity is becoming the Borg. Yeah, I think so. I think the Borg are just highly authoritarian, and that's what we're becoming. Here's a more ethical solution. Bioengineer everyone to have the virus, but don't sacrifice anyone. Odds are someone will get captured despite its best effort, so Borg are also killed, but without people to sacrifice. Nate Watson. You know, I don't hate that. That changes the culture fundamentally, but instead of doing children, every person is bioengineered. That would turn the Borg off incredibly so, too. Laura, in your opinion, what are some positive traits of Captain Archer? I think he handled the Borg well. I think Archer can be written really well, just like Janeway. I think Archer can be written really well. I think he handles things like his entire role in the Xindi arc is what I would expect of a United Earth captain pre-Federation. Archer is written well in a lot of episodes, I think. The Xindi arc, I think, the last episode where they completely destroy it, where they make it more about the next generation than they do Enterprise. I think him... No, I'm wrong. It's part of the Xindi arc. When he's willing to sacrifice himself, even though he knows it might destroy the future, I think that's a positive, a good trait about him. I think it's very United Earth, very Starfleet. At Lore Reloaded, to our earlier discussion, you were saying the difference between the Hugh virus and Star Trek Discovery is that the Klingon bombs weren't a last resort, whereas Hugh practically is. Yes, that's one part of it, and again, there's another way. Well, that's the last resort piece. I'll have to think on it, because that's a good question, Johnny. They should have just gotten the Indian scammers to deal with the Borg. Absolutely. All right, let's go to the next one. Where am I at? Locutus.
And Picard uses this to try and talk Hugh into returning to the Borg way of thinking. But Dr. Crusher and Geordi's indoctrination was too strong, and Hugh objects to Geordi being assimilated.
Must Geordi be assimilated?
Yes.
He does not wish it. He would rather die than be assimilated.
Then he will die.
No, Geordi must not die. Geordi is a friend.
You will assist us to assimilate this vessel. You are Borg. You will assist us.
I will not.
What did you say?
I will not assist you. Geordi must not be assimilated.
But you are Borg.
No, I am Hugh.
This was a well-done scene.
This is one of the reasons you don't talk to your prisoner of war, so that they don't make themselves appear more human. I don't care if he gets it, to be quite honest. I don't think that it would be that easy. AntiTrekker goes into it too. I don't think that's how he would react. But beyond that, it doesn't matter if he gets it. It matters what the his big brothers, as Guinan was going to put it, will continue to do. So, I just look. I agree with AntiTrekker. That was it was a well done scene. It was it was good at showing Q changing, and it was good at Picard realizing that not all Borg are the same. It doesn't change anything. Laughable Larry, was Janeway allowing Q to die, forcing their ideals? I don't believe so, for a couple of reasons. The Q agreed. The Q agreed that Janeway was going to be the arbiter, that she was going to decide based on presented. And I at that point, they agreed to her ideals or what she believes. They agree to the jurisdiction of Starfleet. And so when Janeway gave permission for Q to commit suicide, I don't think that was forcing her ideals. I think that they arbitrated it that way. And that was what they chose. But yeah, so that's my opinion. Not to speak on should someone be allowed to die or not. My opinion on that has changed a bit drastically after a friend of mine had to watch his mom die because they wouldn't allow her to commit suicide. So she literally starved to death. I don't want to get into that. But what I will say is that it wasn't an enforcement of Starfleet or Federation ideals onto someone else. Lore Reloaded. Ironically, there is a movie about talking with your prisoner that was made with Kristen Stewart a few years back where she plays a guard at Guantanamo Bay. Yeah, you don't talk to him. It took 7 or 9 years to get to the point where she accepted herself as an individual. Yeah, I agree. And I think that would have been what he would have done. I think he would have... Starbase Lore, you're not allowed to go to sleep. I think he would have tried to... he would have tried to assimilate them 10 times over. Lore, at what point does Hugh change from a Borg to a rescued human? I don't know. I have no idea. Sorry if that disappoints you. Let me ask you this. Well, let's continue on for a second. Let's go here.
Discuss what to do about their dilemma. But ultimately, of the Borg. Picard holds a meeting and they discuss what to do about their dilemma. Hugh seems to be a true individual and therefore they cannot use their plan to kill the collective because it makes them no better than the enemy they seek to destroy. Except that is incorrect. Killing someone in self-defense does not make you as bad as a murderer. But whatever. Riker suggests putting him back in the crash site, wiping his mind, to which, surprise, surprise, Crusher and Geordi object because they did such a good job indoctrinating Hugh, they didn't want all their work to go to waste. Then Picard suggests that if they do not wipe out his memory, perhaps it would let the collective know what it's like to be an individual, which that could be a cool idea if Hugh was the first Borg to ever be introduced to the collective.
We're going to continue on and let him continue with this, but I want you guys to consider this. Hey, we're not going to use him as a weapon, or no, more importantly, we're not going to wipe his mind. We're not going to set him back to the way he was. We're going to let our own ideals so that he can go back and spread them. They're using him as a weapon, but they're trying to portray it as being these great people. The problem is, the only difference between the original plan to use this image that they'll never understand, that will destroy them, and let him go as they're going to let him go, is that the way they let him do it with his self-identity didn't work. They weaponized him both ways. He was weaponized in an attempt to destroy the culture both ways. One would have worked. One had a shot and didn't. And they're made to look like the good guys. Like, this is just awesome, that they're great people.
At a later age. Even if humanity was the first race that the collective was ever going to assimilate, which would be logical from Q, Who, and Best of Both Worlds, but will be retconned in First Contact, they assimilated Picard. And they even bragged about how all the knowledge and experience of Picard was a part of the collective. So there is no way that the collective did not know what Picard felt like as an individual. That being said, Picard reasons that the knowledge of being self spread throughout the collective could be an even more effective weapon than their original plan. So, wait a minute. Let's get this straight. Picard starts out this episode saying that he wants to leave the Borg to die, and then he lets Crusher save him, and then he decides to use him as a biological weapon. Then he says that they're just saving him for humanitarian reasons. Then he goes back to making him into a biological weapon, and then he interviews him and recognizing he's a life worthy of saving, but now he wants to send him back to the collective, hoping that he will destroy them all? This is...
Yeah, I forgot that AntiTrekker brought that up. But yeah, he just points it out. He brings it up. It's just, and you know, I think that's a good point with the Picard being assimilated. Picard should have brought the destruction or the disunity that Hugh did. And that's just poorly written continuity, is what that is. Yeah, I have 1252. What happens at 1252? We'll go back here for a second, and then we'll do it. I don't know why I marked this one out.
With Picard, at least until he changed his mind. The Borg are not individuals. They are part of a collective mind. Think of it this way. Suppose you had a plan to kill Hitler. I only use Hitler here because everyone, except for extreme nutjobs, can agree that Hitler was evil. Anyway, if you're going to kill Hitler, and your plan is to get his toenail, infect it with a virus, and then put it back. But the only problem is that when you get Hitler's toenail, you find out that it's not the evil toenail you thought it was, but one of the nicest toenails you have ever seen. Does this mean that Hitler should not be killed? No! Picard, throughout this episode, talks about how the Borg are different, and they are. Now, I joke a lot about Picard being a racist, but that's because in this episode, they're trying to confuse racism with what the Borg are in order to make Picard in the wrong. There is no analogy to the Borg in our real world. They are truly a unique creation, which is what made them so awesome. Here we get the real problem. In order to try and tell a compelling story about bigotry, we have to make Picard wrong. And in order for Picard to be wrong, the Borg have to simply be slaves rather than a single unstoppable organism, like an intelligent virus or something. The Borg are just a bunch of innocent victims. While best of...
All right. So that's going to be where we end on the AntiTrekker stuff. I suggest you go take a look. It's 2 videos. First video is down there, and then it links to the second video after this, of course. He goes into some stuff I disagree with at the end, but that's not necessarily what we're trying to look at. Overall, Picard has blood on his hands, just like Janeway has blood on her hands, for allowing the Borg to continue to survive. There's no reason that he shouldn't have. And I think that AntiTrekker breaks it down quite a bit. Lore Reloaded is better than AntiTrekker. Completely agree. 100%. Is Admiral Blackwell Section 31? Probably. Hugh was the son Picard never wanted. Yeah. William Shatner is 87 now. Hope he can still return in the future. Not to Discovery. I'd like to see him anywhere but Discovery. That wouldn't make much sense. All right, guys. Do you have anything you want to end with? We've been going on longer than I generally do. So, what do you guys have anything you want to note? Anything to go over? At the gym, Lore trying to get that Borg-like strength. Well, you rock it up, Lance Heaps. Which of the captains have the most blood on their hands? Probably... what's his name? Wow, he's my favorite. Cisco. I'd say Cisco has the most blood on his hands. Maybe Janeway. You can make an argument for Janeway. Janeway has the most unjustified blood on her hands. The moment Hugh changed back to a human from a Borg is when he said I, and he picked the choice to live. At that point, you couldn't knowingly kill him, says Laughable Larry. You couldn't knowingly send him back to the collective either. If we're going to make that argument, which I don't know that I accept that premise, but let's assume that I accept that premise. You can't send him back to the Borg. It's the same thing. It's just working in reverse. The Borg are going to turn him into a drone. He stops being a drone. He becomes a person. And he becomes a person with, what is it? Stockholm Syndrome is what he is. A person with Stockholm Syndrome. And then they're like, well, what do you want? Well, I want to go back to my abuser. Well, hell, you're a person with individuality. Let's send you back, because that's the humane thing to do. I don't accept that he is an individual yet. But if we did, then I think that them sending him back is horrific. I just, at Johnny Doe, I just remembered there was a DS9 episode that played with the opposite outcome where they try to rehabilitate a Jem'Hadar and fail. If you're talking about the child that it was like a baby that turned into a child or whatever, it's interesting. Jem'Hadar can't be saved, in my opinion. At Lore Reloaded, The Walking Dead is almost on. Lore equal in this show. Yeah, I'm looking forward to The Walking Dead. I have been watching them like crazy. I love this season of The Walking Dead, by the way. People who hate it are crazy. In Star Trek V, they should have developed a virus that eliminated the Borg hive mind and give back their individuality. If they could, I would agree. Lore, have you played Mass Effect? Yes. I played Mass Effect Andromeda. Yes. Could that idea work in a Star Trek series? Maybe. That's a little bit bigger conversation. All right. I think that's where we're going to end it, guys. If you know how this works, I'm going to have a little bit of creepiness to this because there's a delay and I have to make sure that you get the last of my words because, I mean, you couldn't watch the show if you didn't get my ending that everybody is so used to. So, guys, I want to thank you so much for watching. It is always fun to have so many people here. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'm going to see you on the next Lore Reloaded. Creepy Stare.